The trader next to him said. I said I wanted to order McDonald's, but I couldn't find their number. There's only a menu from that Mexican restaurant on the desk. Daniel screamed like a madman, place orders, keep placing orders. After all the commotion, the scent of cheesesteak wafted out from the glass-walled office, carried across the trading floor by the fan Lu Zhongtong had left running. The traders, all suffering from low blood sugar, paused for just a moment to stare at Daniel. Daniel's eyes bulged, his face twitched, and he spun around and dashed into the glass room. Two other traders simultaneously turned and bolted toward the restroom. Lu Zhongtong had been fixing the toilet the whole time, keeping an eye on everything unfolding in the trading hall. And Liang's Feng Shui trap was working faster than expected. In 3 cycles Feng Shui, when one's mountain of support is disrupted, it directly affects physical health. Making the entire trading team feel suddenly weak and ravenous was the perfect effect. At the very least, it would slow down Butterfly Fund's ability to place trades. Suddenly, 2 traders shoved Lu Zhongtang out of the restroom. He realized the Feng Shui trap had another consequence. It caused diarrhea. Before long, a line began forming outside the restroom. It was now undeniable. Butterfly Fund's entire team had food poisoning. Watching his traders abandon their desks one after another to rush to the bathroom, Daniel knew he was in deep trouble. He could maybe control people by withholding food, but stopping them from needing the toilet? Impossible. His team's fighting strength had completely collapsed. People were lining up outside the restroom, some even rejoining the queue after coming out. Daniel lunged at a computer terminal, nearly sobbing as he placed short sell orders in a desperate attempt to suppress the rising Straits Times index. He felt utterly cursed. Didn't he have Liang's wealth-attracting Feng Shui setup helping him? How could something this humiliating happen? Then it hit him. Liang. Damn it. It's gotta be Liang messing with me. Liu Zhongtang is the head of the Chinese Community Association. Why would he be fixing toilets? He and Liang are in this together to screw me over. Daniel abandoned his trading terminal and stormed to the restroom door. In front of the desperate queasy traders, he tackled Liu Zhongtang to the ground, frantically searching his pockets until he pulled out a 3 cycles Feng Shui manual covered in hexagrams, the handwriting unmistakably in Liang's. This was proof everything had been orchestrated by Liang. Trembling, Daniel dialed Liang's number, determined to confront his so-called friend about this betrayal, but no one answered. Just as Liu Zhongtang scrambled back to his feet, Daniel grabbed his shirt and roared, "Where is Liang? Where is that damn bastard?" Liu Zhongtang seized Daniel's collar and shouted back, "Enough, you're robbing all of Southeast Asia. Liang, me and everyone with a conscience. We won't let you do this. He's not hurting you. He's stopping your fund and the people who hired you to commit evil. Liang is right across the street at 120 Broadway. Or maybe downstairs. You can go find him right now. We all want you out of this trading room. This is my career, my life. I don't care about your damn Feng Shui tricks. Stop it right now." That coward won't even answer my call. Does he even dare stand downstairs anymore? Hearing this, Lu Zhongtang sensed something was wrong. And Liang never ignored calls. He pulled out his own phone and saw a missed call from Liang hours earlier, just one ring, but he'd been too busy to notice. It turned out that when Liang entered the 23rd floor, he'd held Li Shuoxin's hand with one hand, while the other stayed in his pocket, gripping his phone. The moment security guards captured them, and Liang had pressed Lu Zhongtang's number, leaving that single-ring emergency signal. Lu Zhongtang redialed immediately, but Liang's phone was now off. Realizing something was terribly wrong, Lu Zhongtang instantly led a group of Hongman brothers, dressed as janitorial staff, straight across the street to 120 Broadway. Dozens of highly skilled Hongman brothers stormed Building 120, knocking out the security guards at the entrance and triggering the police alarm system. They smashed open the doors of United America's engineering group on the 23rd floor, subdued the guards, and rescued the unconscious Li Xiaoxin from the pantry. When Lu Zhongtang burst into the CEO's office, he froze in shock. The room had been transformed into a black altar. And Liang was tied to a large central table, and Elena lay motionless on top of him. Several cult priests were just lifting her off, attempting resuscitation. As soon as Lu Zhongtang freed him, and Liang rushed out to find Li Xiaoxin, but she remained unconscious, unresponsive no matter how loudly he called her name. Police and ambulances arrived quickly. Based on video footage from the Hongman brothers' phones, authorities immediately classified the incident as a cult kidnapping and took Elena and the remaining guards into custody. And Liang sat beside Li Xiaoxin's hospital bed, holding her hand tightly. Tubes for IV fluids and oxygen covered her body. The emergency treatment was complete, but doctors repeatedly warned that she was critically ill and needed immediate hospitalization. As dawn broke, Li Xiaoxin opened her eyes. She stared blankly at the ceiling for a while, then slowly began feeling around with her hands. And Liang whispered softly, "Xiaoxin, I'm here." A blush spread across her face as she smiled and gripped his hand. "I had a dream we were sitting by the seaside. I was wearing a white long dress." And Liang waved his hand in front of her eyes, no reaction. She was still blind. He gazed at her tenderly, believing she could feel the warmth of his look. "That wasn't a dream. We really went there. It was Java Island Beach. And that white dress? It was a wedding gown you tried on. Am I wearing it now?" She patted her body, feeling only the blue hospital gown and the medical tubes. She tried to pull them out, but Liang gently held her hand. "Don't move. You're in the hospital. These tubes are helping you get better. But I'm fine now. I feel great." She reached up to touch his face, and when her fingers found the neatly trimmed square-shaped goatee on his chin, she laughed. Then she said, "Liang, I want to see the wedding dress." Seeing the healthy glow on her sun-kissed face, and noticing her improved spirits, and Liang carefully helped her sit up, dressed her, and like truant students sneaking out of class took her hand and quietly slipped out of the hospital. Liu Zhongtang, fresh from the police station, had just arrived to wait outside her room. When he saw Li Xiaoxin walking out, he asked with concern, "Xiaoxin, are you discharged already? How are you feeling?" As she stepped slowly through the hospital entrance, she paused and turned toward Liu Zhongtang's voice. Yoran and Lang gave Liu Zhongtang a meaningful glance and said, "This is your cousin brother. He's your older brother. Older brother, cousin brother." Li Xiaoxin smiled and reached out her hand. Liu Zhongtang's throat tightened, tears welling in his eyes. He took her hand and said, "Yes, I'm your brother. Both Liang and I are right here with you. Shall we go home now?" And Liang shook his head at Liu Zhongtang and said, "You forgot. We promised to go try on wedding dresses. Take us to the bridal shop. I'll call Sister Yun." Li Xiaoxin leaned against the door of the ice cream truck and slowly settled inside, equally puzzled. "Who's Sister Yun?" sitting beside her. And Liang replied, "Sister Yun is your mother. She's a grand master of Feng Shui in New York. You also have a younger sister named Jing. She's a very sweet nun." "Mother? Sister? Yeah. Want to hear their voices?" And Liang immediately dialed Yun's number, and as soon as she answered said, "Mom, Xiaoxian wants to talk to you." And Yun had just finished handling the Matvi situation in Singapore. Zhang Jiwen was driving her and Jing back to the hotel when the call came through. She was stunned, and Liang's birth chart designated the seal star as his taboo element, which clashed with his mother's energy. To avoid misfortune according to traditional metaphysical practice, she'd made him call her Sister Yun since childhood. After decades of that habit, hearing him suddenly say Mom moved her deeply, but also alarmed her. Something must be wrong, she answered softly, then covered the phone with her hand, and whispered to Jing, brow furrowed, "He called me Mom." At that exact moment, Zhang Jiwen's car was crossing an intersection. A truck ran a red light and shot across their path. The car screeched to an emergency stop. In Yibu divination, this was the most critical kind of external omen. And Yun knew something was about to happen. She lifted the phone again and heard Li Xiaoxin's tentative voice. "Mom, are you really my mom?" And Yun understood Li Xiaoxin's condition had reached its final stage. She took a deep breath and responded warmly. "Xiaoxian, it's me. I'm your mom. How are you feeling? When are you coming home, Mom?" Li Xiaoxin's tone had regressed into that of a little girl, nothing like the hardened field agent she once was. And Yun, who had been closely monitoring her condition, estimated her memory and cognitive function had already regressed below the age of 10. She forced a gentle smile and said, "I'll be home for dinner tonight. You wait for me, okay? Promise you'll wait." She handed the phone to Jing, then leaned close to Zhang Jiwen's ear and whispered urgently, "I need to fly back to New York right now. Turn around and head straight to the airport." Ever since the mass food poisoning incident among its traders, the Butterfly Fund had been locked in a desperate battle, hemorrhaging money by the hour. Daniel had managed to close most of the windows Liu Zhongtang had opened, and with the few traders rotating back from the toilets, barely conscious. He struggled to maintain short pressure on the index, but Straits Times Index futures imposed strict limits on single-direction positions per account. Without enough personnel or dispersed accounts, the Butterfly Fund couldn't execute large-volume trades, even if Daniel maxed out every account. He lacked the capital firepower needed, and maintaining this posture would only invite Singaporean regulators to trace the fund's origin, exposing clear evidence of market manipulation. In truth, Daniel had already fallen into the Singapore Sovereign Wealth Fund's trap during his initial short assault at market open. Instead of resisting immediately when he pushed the index down, Singapore let him drive it 400 points lower with minimal capital. They used the 10-minute cooling-off period to lure him into piling massive short positions at those artificially low levels, positions he couldn't immediately liquidate for profit. Then, the moment trading resumed, they struck back hard. By then, the Butterfly Fund's capital was already deeply trapped, leaving Daniel in an impossible bind. The index refused to fall further. If he cut losses now, all recently opened shorts would instantly register massive losses. If he doubled down on shorting, he had little advantage, and no idea how much firepower Singapore still held. It felt like pouring money into a bottomless pit. The Butterfly Fund had originally prepared ample capital for this short raid. With leverage, they could have truly challenged the Singapore Sovereign Wealth Fund. But money alone wasn't enough. You needed people to wield it. It was like having the best weapons on the battlefield, but pairing them with soldiers crippled by diarrhea. As the main force attacking the Straits Times Index, with the most capital and the largest team, the Butterfly Fund's collapse sent shockwaves through the entire coordinated assault. Other hedge funds suddenly found resistance far stronger than expected. Under Daniel's emergency orders, they tried redirecting resources back to the main front, but it was too late. By market close, the index had only dropped 100 points. The Butterfly Fund ended the day down 200 points on its operations, with huge short positions still open, and no way to tell if this was yet another trap designed to lure Daniel deeper. The Butterfly Fund, acting as the central command, had been shattered by the Feng Shui formation. Other funds suffered their own disasters, some lost mainline communications, others committed catastrophic human errors, and several fund managers were rushed to hospitals with sudden illnesses. Meanwhile, Daniel faced Brown's furious tirade. By dawn, the Butterfly Fund's trading floor stood empty. All traders had gone home to rest. Only Daniel remained, sitting alone in the glass room, staring at the screen. On it, A double-chinned white man was furiously sawing into a bloody steak, jabbing his finger at Daniel while screaming obscenities. Daniel's face was darker than ever. Steeling himself, he said to Brown, "In the first half hour yesterday, we established too few short positions at the high. By the time we built more after pushing the index down, the cost was too high, we couldn't withstand the counterattack, but the losing positions haven't been closed yet. Give me one more tranche of capital, and I can take down the Straits Times Index today." Fuck your black ass. Do you even know how much Soros spends? Do you know how much you've already burned? You've blown $20 billion, and with leverage, your losses are at $120 billion. Brown was so enraged, he nearly choked. He spat out the meat in his mouth and roared, "And now you're asking for more money? What you need now is a margin call." Having served time in prison before, Daniel couldn't shake the feeling this exchange sounded just like jailhouse talk. He snapped back. "I prepared the blue book a week ago. It clearly outlined worst-case scenarios and exactly how much capital we'd need to handle them." "Did you even read the fucking blue book? I've personally put in 50 million. I have to crush Singapore." "Your 50 million is shit. Your blue book didn't mention mass food poisoning. It didn't say you'd need a second team of traders. Everyone's shitting themselves on the floor except you. What the hell, are you a corporate spy?" Brown grabbed his plate with half a steak still on it and hurled it at the screen, smashing both the display and the camera. Daniel flinched violently. After a tense silence, Brown spoke in a low, deadly calm. "Metropolitan Bank will transfer 20 billion to you today. By this time tomorrow, you either win and paradise in the Virgin Islands awaits you, or you go straight to hell." A luxurious open-top wedding car pulled up beside Broadway right in front of the Wall Street Bull. The bronze bull lowered its head, using its horns to deflect the negative energy surging straight down Broadway. This very bull, symbol of resilience and spirit, had through Feng Shui principles supported Wall Street's rise over the past 20 years, turning every crisis into renewed momentum. But today, Liang intended to alter this divine arrangement, even if only for a single day. And Jing, dressed in an elegant white gown with a wreath of white flowers in her hair, gently guided Li Xiaoxian as she stepped slowly from the car toward the Wall Street Bull. Li Xiaoxian wore a simple yet graceful wedding dress that accentuated her slender waist. A white veil covered her face as she smiled while walking toward Liang. Though her eyes saw only darkness, her heart was filled with pure radiant light. She knew that just a few more steps would bring her to the man she had longed for day and night. Though she couldn't explain why, she simply knew he was the one destined to walk beside her for life. And Yun stood nearby, still wearing a flowing Chinese-style robe, though today it was a dignified vermilion red. Her neat short hair was accented by a few longer strands falling softly over her forehead, giving her an understated yet regal presence. Like a mother sending off her daughter, she let Li Xiaoxian take her arm and led her gently to the bull statue. A group of nuns from Sacred Heart Convent, clad in black robes edged with green, surrounded the kind Mother Berenice, waiting for the ceremony to begin. Liang and Liu Zhongtang stood beside Mother Berenice in formal black tailcoats. As Li Xiaoxian crossed the street, Liang instinctively took a step forward, worried and eager to guide her himself. But Liu Zhongtang caught his arm and gave him a reassuring nod with a quiet smile. Tourists from around the world mingled with scattered police officers maintaining order. No one spoke loudly. All faces were bright with anticipation for this moment of joy. Behind Liang stood a cluster of children who had come to watch, their expressions as tense as his own. One mischievous child even ran up to stare intently into Liang's face, but Liang saw only one person, the other half God had chosen for him. News of Metropolitan Bank's massive client withdrawals and impending breakup auction had swept across the globe overnight. Everyone called it a rumor, but everyone secretly hoped others would believe it. When markets opened, direct investors immediately dumped Metropolitan Bank shares, while speculators seized the opportunity for a bloodbath. Within minutes of the opening bell, the stock price plummeted like a boulder tumbling down a mountainside. Montreal Asset Management Company kept aggressively increasing its positions in credit default swaps on Metropolitan Bank contracts that paid out handsomely as the bank's stock fell, generating enormous profits. As word spread across Wall Street, investment banks of all sizes rushed to join the fray, piling into credit default swaps just like Montreal, and then coordinating massive short attacks against Metropolitan Bank. Soon, the infighting turned vicious, and that day Wall Street became a cage of savage beasts. Daniel's request for emergency capital infusion into Butterfly Fund failed. By mid-morning on the first day of the short attack, Metropolitan Bank stock had already dropped 20%. Its market value evaporated so rapidly that the bank lost all liquidity momentum. Faced with looming global runs on deposits, Metropolitan Bank chose to hoard every last dollar rather than lend out even a single cent. Davis, emboldened by Liang, unleashed his hedge fund wolf pack in a ferocious assault on Metropolitan Bank, a financial titan with over a century of history and immense influence on Wall Street. Without Liang's boldness, Davis would never have dared strike, yet years of partnership had taught him to trust Liang's abilities. If Liang laid a Feng Shui trap, Davis would charge ahead without hesitation. That same evening, Daniel used his remaining limited resources to short the Singapore market again, only to be met with a powerful counterattack from the Straits Times Index and other major benchmarks, which surged back above the 3,200-point level. Desperate to salvage what little capital remained, Daniel slashed his equity positions while rolling his expiring futures contracts into the next month, hoping to delay losses and prepare for another fight. Brown had already called, urging Daniel to jump off a building. Daniel nearly smashed open a window and leapt. He'd staked everything he'd ever earned on this short battle, and the scraps he'd clawed back weren't enough to cover next month's payments on his mansion and luxury cars. Like countless others, he had now joined the ranks of those defaulting during the subprime crisis. Early that morning, Liang called Davis to share the happy news of his upcoming wedding. Davis was genuinely thrilled and immediately offered to attend, and even promised the best wedding gift imaginable. But Liang didn't want gifts. "Keep attacking Metropolitan Bank," he pleaded. "If you can shake its foundation on Wall Street and drive it out of international markets, that will be the greatest wedding gift I could ask for. I want to see Metropolitan Bank crushed into mud the moment I say my vows, Davis. Promise me every morning before returning to Wall Street." Davis visited his usual barbershop to have his impeccably silver hair trimmed. He raised a hand to stop the barber, paused for a long moment, then spoke slowly. "Lang, Metropolitan Bank is like an ancient tree deeply rooted in Wall Street, and its power extends far beyond finance. You know what I mean. I don't know how you pulled this off, but this attack has gone suspiciously smoothly. Under normal circumstances, it would have been impossible. If we push again, Metropolitan Bank will retaliate like a tsunami. We can't afford a prolonged war with them. They're a terrifying enemy. Honestly, I've already made enough profit yesterday. If I keep pressing, I might end up exactly where you predicted. On the defendant's bench, I'm curious why Metropolitan Bank." And Liang glanced back at Li Xiaoshan, still peacefully asleep in bed, then quietly stepped outside and said, "Metropolitan Bank isn't just a bank. It's part of a coalition with hedge funds called the Cat Group. They've invested heavily in projects designed to destabilize emerging nations, projects that trigger financial crises and political chaos for profit. They've even partnered with terrorists to develop weapons of mass destruction. They're not expanding finance, they're building a terror empire. This directly contradicts the Davis Foundation's mission of fostering open societies. Metropolitan Bank isn't just my enemy, it's yours too. I know money is merely a tool for you, not your goal. You care about humanity, that's why I agreed to be your advisor. Even if you hold back today, tomorrow or next year, you'll still face the same enemy. Why not act now? Trust me, I'll strip Metropolitan Bank and the entire Wall Street of their strength. Let this great cleansing be carried out by you." Davis fell silent for a while, then said, "Is there a personal reason for your wife?" And Liang's reply was brief and clear, "Yes." Davis smiled and said, "Good, that reason is enough." The Wall Street Bull stood in the middle of the final fork of Broadway. Roads and parking lines flanked it on both sides. Besides the flower-decorated wedding car, a truck loaded with large mirrored panels was parked nearby, arranged by Liu Zhongtang through a glass shop. From the bull's head, one could see its reflection clearly in the mirrors on the truck, a Feng Shui formation meticulously set up by Liang. For over a decade, this bronze bull had served as a guardian deity, deflecting the sharp negative energy rushing straight from Midtown Manhattan and protecting Wall Street's financial fortune. However, its two horns weren't perfectly aligned with Broadway's central axis. They tilted slightly to the left. By erecting a giant mirror directly in front of the bull's line of sight, it was as if another bull had been placed before it. According to common Feng Shui belief, the bull would become preoccupied with fighting its mirrored rival and forget its duty of warding off negative forces. In truth, mirrors in Feng Shui absorb and neutralize harmful energies. The bull's protective power was thus trapped within the mirror, allowing Broadway's dragon chi to surge unimpeded into New York Bay, shattering Wall Street's naturally formed golden bull warding formation. Stripped of its spiritual shield and compounded by external pressures, Wall Street would inevitably spiral into chaotic decline. Moreover, under Liang's arrangement, red carpets now surrounded the Wall Street Bull. All around was quiet. Police officers halted approaching vehicles, placing fingers to their lips to signal silence. Mother Berenice stood before the bull, awaiting the sacred vows of the bride and groom. "I do. I do." Applause and cheers erupted around Liang and Li Xiaoxian. Nuns and tourists tossed crimson gold foil confetti into the air, showering the bull and everyone present. A nun draped a red floral garland around the bull's neck, and Liang slipped a diamond ring onto Li Xiaoxian's middle finger and kissed his bride deeply amid blessings from onlookers worldwide. Liu Zhongtang glanced at the stock price displayed on his phone. Metropolitan Bank was plummeting at an unprecedented rate. And Liang took the phone and showed it to Li Xiaoxian. "Those who live by the sword die by the sword. Those who wield finance to harm the world will ultimately be destroyed by finance itself." Li Xiaoxian giggled and shook her head, indicating she didn't understand. She wrapped her arms around Liang's neck and asked, "Should I be happy?" Looking into her innocent eyes, Liang recalled the little girl he'd once rescued from a sea of flames. He nodded firmly and said, "Yes, you should. The world must redistribute wealth until fairness is restored." And Yun observed that the bull was now completely covered in red gold foil, resembling a mosaic of crimson. She knew Liang's Feng Shui formation had successfully fulfilled his purpose. As the mirrored panels redirected the bull's energy to one side, nuns and crowds physically blocked its view, splitting the bull from Broadway. Combined with fire element red carpets and floral wreaths which weakened the metal element bronze bull, Wall Street effectively lost its guardian that day. This wedding was not only a celebration but also a strike against those who sought to control the world. At the height of Liang and Li Xiaoxian's joy, Yun noticed Liu Zhongtang quietly guiding Coco toward Jing, gently taking her hand. And Jing tensed, pressing her lips together while her alert eyes darted around. Seeing En Yun watching, she immediately pulled away, but Lu Zhongtong simply took her hand again and looped it through his arm. En Yun turned away with a soft smile, only to spot Daniel running breathlessly toward them from the direction of Wall Street. Li Xiaoxin never seemed to forget Daniel. The moment she saw him, she laughed gleefully and opened her arms, waiting for his embrace and blessing. Daniel held her hands and exclaimed admiringly, "You look like an angel today, Xiaoxian. I wish you happiness, I love you." Then he turned to En Lang. Instantly, their faces hardened like rival dogs meeting eye to eye. Daniel wrinkled his nose and said, "I came here to bless Xiaoxian. Don't think I've forgiven you. Let me tell you, I'm bankrupt. Your damn Feng Shui trap nearly drove me to jump into the East River. But I've changed my mind now. I want you to jump into the East River." He thrust his stomach forward, knocking En Lang off balance. En Lang grabbed Daniel's collar to steady himself, yanking him close and saying, "You've grown so crude, you're nothing like the old Dada anymore. If you wanted to get rich, why wouldn't I help you? But you can't side with those conspirators just for money. If you really wanted to help, how did I end up bankrupt? You ruined my whole life. What cursed Feng Shui trap did you set up in my house? What did you and Zhongtang do in my trading room? Screw you. I regret ever knowing you. Give me back my 2.5 million. You're a fraud who stole 2.5 million from me." Li Xiaoxin stepped between them and pulled Daniel away. "Dada, you're good friends, don't fight like this. But you really have changed. I'm even a little scared of you now." Daniel released En Lang with frustration and muttered, "Really? Sorry, I don't feel like I've changed at all. Wait, what phone call?" He saw En Lang holding out a phone to him. Snatching it, he barked into the receiver. "Hey, who the hell is this, Mom? The house, really? Ha ha ha. That's amazing. Oh Mom, I love you." Daniel handed the phone back to En Lang, crossed his arms, glared at him and rolled his eyes. Unbeknownst to Daniel, En Liang had used the 2.5 million he'd taken from him to purchase a house and car for Daniel's mother, ensuring his family would never face homelessness or hardship again. Now they only needed to rebuild their lives through honest work. En Liang shrugged at Daniel and said, "See, your mom's a good person, she won't waste money, so, with me around, what do you have to worry about?" Daniel silently opened his arms and embraced both En Liang and Li Xiaoxin, shaking his head with overwhelming emotion. "Xiaoxian, your husband's a bastard, but we all like him anyway." 50 floors up at Chase Manhattan Plaza, Montreal Asset Management Company overlooked both Broadway and Wall Street and offered a direct view of the Bronze Bull. Davis stepped away from his rosewood desk. He no longer needed to monitor Metropolitan Bank's stock price. The market had entered a self-sustaining downward spiral. According to financial theory, unless an external force intervened, such momentum would only accelerate. And intervention was impossible. He could see the crowd blocking the Wall Street bull. Davis poured 2 glasses of red wine, walked to the window, placed 1 glass on the sill, and gently clinked it against the air. Facing En Liang before the bull, he raised his glass and said softly, "Cheers. Wishing you happiness." The New York State Police conducted an intensive investigation into the cult kidnapping case at the headquarters of United America's engineering group. The company was shut down, and Elena was detained as the primary suspect. Yet she never filed a bail request with the court until En Liang visited her at the detention center. Located near New York City Hall, not far from Wall Street, the detention center had En Liang follow a guard alone into the interview room. En Liang placed a pack of cigarettes on the table and watched as the guard brought Elena in. She wore standard-issue inmate clothing, but it couldn't hide her tall, shapely figure. Her blonde hair fell across her face, and through the strands he saw her pale complexion and heavy expression. Before even sitting down, she pulled a cigarette from the pack and lit it. Leaning against the wall and taking a deep drag. Only 1 pack. En Liang lit one for himself and sat on the edge of the table. "Why haven't you applied for bail? Appearing in court dressed like this won't help your case. Have you hired a lawyer?" Elena slowly lifted her head, watching the smoke curl upward. "I don't plan to leave. If Daniel were smart, he'd come in here too. Either work for the boss or hide in here." En Liang understood, bankrupting the Butterfly Fund, crippling Metropolitan Bank, and forcing United America's engineering group out of the US. None of that meant Kat had vanished from the world. If Elena wanted to return to the company, with Kat's power she could walk out of here anytime. But she didn't want to go back to that life. Stepping outside would only mean another assassination attempt, just like in Singapore. After a pause, he asked quietly, "Have you ever killed anyone?" Elena knew that on the altar, En Lang and everyone present had seen into her innermost self. That act had been her sole retaliation against a cruel world, and the beginning of her nightmare. On that day, Kat had erased all evidence for her, but those very erasures became chains binding her to Kat forever. She gave a cold laugh. "Those who deserve to die, if your evidence against me isn't enough to lock me up for life, I'll confess to it myself." In her cold eyes, En Lang saw the wounds the past had left, but she hadn't faced them or let them go. Instead, she'd chosen the most foolish escape. Suddenly, he asked, "You've done so much genetic research. Have you ever studied the genes of prisoners? You should know clearly whether you carry that kind of gene, just as I can calculate whether someone will end up in jail." I don't have it. But I believe if someone truly wishes for something, it can come true. Or I could kill you right here, and then I'd definitely spend the rest of my life in prison." Hearing this, En Liang realized Elena had chosen to take responsibility, and that his own choice had been right. He flicked away the half-smoked cigarette. I'm glad to hear you say that. Elena, you're a genius. You can do so much more for humanity. Elena suddenly shouted at him. Why should I do anything for humanity? People deceived me, hurt me, used me to build their so-called new world, and now people are locking me up. I thought I could believe in God, in an ideal. I thought if I held on, there'd be hope. But all I've done is protect myself from being destroyed again and again. Can I do more for myself? Who has ever done more for me? Aren't you using me too? And Liang met her fierce gaze and understood this anger came from trust. No one would reveal their true thoughts or show their vulnerability to someone who couldn't understand them. Softly, he said, people have no right to hurt others, but they do have the right to freedom. Life is precious. Even if you know exactly how long you'll live, not a single day is worth wasting. Don't give up. I'm not making a deal with you. But I think you'd be willing to consider another option now. The Davis Foundation is pushing forward a cancer gene therapy research program. They're eager to collaborate with you and they can guarantee your safety. If you're willing, plead not guilty at the pretrial hearing. They'll send lawyers and I'll support you in court too. In this case, only the kidnapping charge is serious. All the technical details can be explained. And as for me, I wasn't kidnapped by you. I was just cooperating with your research, wasn't I? Elena looked up at him, puzzled. And Liang shrugged. Just like how mentally ill patients need to be restrained to get treatment, I needed to be kidnapped to be cured. Heh. Elena fell silent for a long time, then slowly let her hands drop, the cigarette butt falling to the floor. She whispered to Liang, hold me just like friends do. She wrapped her arms tightly around him, closed her eyes and whispered in his ear, don't lie to me, please don't lie to me. Meanwhile, Yun had brought in Jing and Lu Zhongtong to China, standing atop Longhu Mountain in Jiangxi province. Gazing out over the magnificent landscape, Yun wanted Jing, who was born in America, to see her ancestral homeland, and she also wanted Lu Zhongtong, now fully released after serving his sentence, to finally take a proper Feng Shui journey without sneaking across borders. They had just left the Taoist sacred site, the Celestial Master's Mansion. Since arriving in China, Jing had specially made herself a traditional Chinese long gown to match her mother's favorite attire. Now dressed in a gray cotton changshan and holding a lupan compass, she skipped ahead cheerfully. Reaching the peak of a hill, she spread her arms wide, took a deep breath, and turned to Yun. This is where our great-great-grandmother practiced cultivation. The view is breathtaking. Yun smiled as she climbed up to stand beside her daughter, looking into the distance. This is the birthplace of Chinese Feng Shui and the ancestral home of the Yan family. Over a century ago, our great-great-grandmother Lu Zhoujiao set out from here, traveled across China, and then went on to the world, and that's how a little rascal like you came to be. It's strange, even as children we noticed you resembled her. Petite with a delicate oval face, that's what makes me pretty. But why was she called Lu Zhoujiao yet the family register lists her as Qingru? Yun looked deeply into her daughter's eyes. Does the name really matter? Lu Zhongtong stood nearby, lost in thought, and Jing tilted her head. Of course a nice name matters. If you'd given me an ugly name, I'd have changed it myself. Yun laughed. Today you're wearing a changshan, but in America you wear a nun's black robe. Yet you're still you. Jing nodded vigorously and stretched her arms high. Exactly. Ugh, my legs are numb from meditating for days at the Celestial Master's Mansion. But kneeling in prayer every day at the convent never felt tiring. Wouldn't it be so much easier if the whole world just believed in God? A warm, slightly humid breeze blew across the mountaintop, filling the sunlit air with peace and openness. Yun gestured for the two young people to sit down and turned to Jing. You studied at the Celestial Master's Mansion for a few days. What do you think the Tao is? Master Zhang told me to forget everything and look inward to my original spirit. Back then I felt the Tao was inside my body, a kind of power. Yun turned to Lu Zhongtong, as a well-read Chinese literature teacher and the white paper fan of Hongmen. His words naturally carried more depth. He answered fluently, as if reciting from memory. The Tao that can be spoken is not the eternal Tao. The name that can be named is not the eternal name, says the Tao Te Ching. If the Tao could be put into words, it wouldn't be the true Tao. The scriptures mean that the Tao has no form, leaves no trace, yet is everywhere. We live within the Tao without even noticing it. This quiet humility teaches us how to conduct ourselves in life. Yun laughed softly. Hehe. You sound like you're describing air. If the Tao is so ordinary and omnipresent, why do Taoist priests still practice and seek it? She looked at the two puzzled young people and said gently, I don't know the answer either. I only have my own thoughts, just like you. Jing, the 10 Commandments of Catholicism say you must not bow down to or serve idols. At the Celestial Master's Mansion, you saw countless statues of deities. Because of your faith, you didn't need to kneel, but you could still sense what the Tao is. Do you know, though Taoism appears to worship many gods, if you peel away the historical layers, its essence is actually monotheistic. Whether you bow or not makes no real difference. Kneeling shows respect for religion and culture, but as long as your heart isn't dismissive, kneeling isn't mandatory. The Tao gives birth to one gives birth to two gives birth to three gives birth to all things. The Tao is the origin of the world. Religions that believe in God seek divine revelation. They call it God, Allah, or the divine. Scientists seek the origin of the universe. They call it the first cause. If Matvey could dig deeper into the truth behind the 35K cosmic microwave background radiation, he would one day glimpse that same ultimate reality. That pursuit isn't different from what Taoism seeks. Liu Zhongtang and An Jing couldn't help but feel deep reverence. Standing on this mountaintop beneath heaven and earth, conversing freely with a mentor who was also a friend, it was pure joy. Liu Zhongtang said, "So names don't matter. I think I understand what Sister Yun meant just now. If we cling only to appearances, names, forms, surface things, we'll never see the truth." And Yun replied to him, "Maybe we'll never see the full truth, but we must keep seeking it. Every step forward brings us closer. The Tao is the natural order, Jing. If you can't fully grasp God's will, how can you be sure God doesn't have another name or another face?" And Jing frowned and pointed toward the celestial master's mansion below. "So you brought me here to see God's other face and then pushed me to leave the convent. Oh, come on, you've been itching to run away every day. I barely hinted at it, and you were already nodding like crazy. Don't blame me now. Brother Liu, whether Jing becomes a nun or not has nothing to do with me, but everything to do with you. You two figure it out together later." Liu Zhongtang chuckled shyly. "Sister Yun, please don't call me Brother Liu. By seniority or any standard, that's not right. Just call me Ah Tang." Sister Yun laughed heartily. "We just finished talking about names, and you're still clinging to form. Let it go. Be more open-minded." Suddenly. And Jing stood up. "I've made up my mind. I want another face too. I'm changing my name to Blue Flame." And Yun said flatly, "Don't even think about such sacrilegious nonsense." Liu Zhongtang added, totally unimaginative, "Oh no, you can't just hit people like that." A quiet green cemetery nestled on a small hill in Brooklyn, New York. From here one could see the Statue of Liberty rising in New York Bay, and Manhattan's skyscrapers stretching toward the sky. The setting was serene, though from a Feng Shui perspective, it was utterly unremarkable. Generations ago, Liang's ancestors had purchased vast tracts of this land, and decreed that all descendants must be cremated and buried here upon death. Cremation stripped bones of most of their Feng Shui potency, and interring them in an ordinary graveyard rendered any geomantic influence null. The N family had always allowed children full freedom to choose their own paths in life, except for this one ironclad rule, passed down through generations without exception. From his earliest memory, every time Liang came here to sweep graves, his mother repeated the same lesson. The N family were masters of Feng Shui, powerful enough to shape descendants' fates through ancestral tombs, but such influence robbed future generations of true freedom. Their ancestors wanted each person to forge their own destiny through personal effort, not be controlled by a burial mound, nor should anyone exploit ancestral remains for selfish gain. Neat rows of tombstones climbed the gentle slope. At the very top stood a joint memorial for Jack White and An Qingru, Green Zhou Jiao. Below it, every marker bore the Yin surname. Generations of Feng Shui masters who honored their forebears' teachings by choosing cremation before burial. Li Xiaoxian was no exception. While still in Singapore, and Jing had called in Liang to tell him that according to Yi Jing calculations, Li Xiaoxian had only 3 days left. During those final days, she would experience a brief radiant resurgence, a last window to fulfill her dreams. She did not escape death's call, but she departed peacefully in Liang's arms, surrounded by loved ones. Months later, her tombstone was complete. Carved from marble, an angel sat atop it, her face serene, smiling gently. Bearing Li Xiaoxian's exact features, dressed in a pure white robe, her wings wrapped protectively around her body, she sat sideways on the stone playing a violin. And Liang stood before her in a crisp suit, holding flowers, speaking softly. "Xiaoxian, my wife. I thought God brought you to me so we could walk into his embrace together. But maybe he only meant for me to send you on your way. Sister Jing told me I shouldn't cry, that lifespans vary, and as long as one fulfills God's purpose, one returns perfectly to heaven. I understand now you came into this world so angels could find their way back home, and by coming to me, you showed me that love isn't a daydream. So I didn't cry." His voice choked, tears streamed down his face, but he didn't wipe them. "Afraid the angel might see. Xiaoxian, my wife. Mother said you came into this world pure, and you left pure. Forgetting is God's gift, because some memories shouldn't be recalled. Blindness is God's tenderness. You never had to open your eyes to this tainted world. Where there is light in your heart, you see light. Where there is love, you see love. Where there is freedom, you are free. And I know, deep in your heart you hold me. So you will always see me. Therefore I shouldn't cry. My dear Xiaoxian, my wife. Dada also told me that as a Feng Shui master, I should be more at peace than most people. He said life always comes to an end, and we've already done everything perfectly. We shared true love, even if only for a day, or even just an hour. Our lives were never wasted. You and he really are good friends. You both say the same things. Oh, by the way, on the day you left, Dada and I drank a lot. He drank even more, and eventually passed out. My dear Xiaoxian, my wife. You loved music, but I never had much time to listen to you play. So I let your soul take your favorite violin with you. I don't know what else I can do for you, but you know, if it were possible, I'd do anything. I can no longer read my own fate clearly. Elena said the 3 Watt-K microwave radiation altered my genes. I don't know when I'll get to see you in heaven, but I hope it's soon. Still, my heart hasn't changed. I love you, my wife. I'll always love you. And Liang set down the flowers and sat quietly beside the tombstone, letting the wind dry his tears. He took a small feminine cell phone from his coat pocket and held it tightly between both hands. It was the one item Li Xiaoxian always carried with her because it held their very first photo together. In that picture, An Liang grinned foolishly while Li Xiaoxian, playful as a little rabbit, tugged at his beard. The sound of a violin filled the air, playing the famous Argentine tango Por una cabeza. And Liang looked up in astonishment. In the distance, a band was performing, and Li Xiaoxian, dressed in a red strapless gown, was walking toward him across the grass, smiling gently. And Liang stood and stepped forward, taking Li Xiaoxian's hand. He lifted her arm slightly, guiding her through a practiced spin beneath his raised elbow, then pulled her close into his embrace. As the passionate main melody swelled, they moved together in elegant promenade steps, but their eyes never left each other. Far away, the groundskeeper leaned on his lawnmower, watching from the hillside below. Atop the slope, a tall Chinese young man stood before an angel-shaped tombstone, dancing an intense, solitary tango with an invisible partner, his hands clutching a phone that played the music.